Hello friends, today my topic is empirical and the molecular formula. How to calculate the empirical and molecular formula. Firstly, we have to know how to calculate the percentage composition of a particular elements in a given compound. Now firstly, the percentage of any element or the constituent in a compound is the number of parts by mass that element or constituent present in 100 parts by mass of an compound. तो परसेंटेज क्या होती है बच्चे? परसेंटेज किसी भी एलिमेंट की परसेंटेज हम कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे कि कितना पार्ट, हाउ मच पार्ट of an element present in a total parts of the compound. For this we have to know various steps. So step number 1, calculate the molar mass of the compound from its formula by adding the atomic mass of an elements present. Firstly आपको क्या करना है? You have to know the molecular mass of a given compound. If you want to calculate the percentage of elements, firstly you know the molecular mass of the compound. Now second is step number 2. Now in this step number 2, calculate the percentage of element or the constant by applying the relation percentage composition. Now here is some question. The question is this: calculate the percentage of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen in ethanol. So firstly, the step number 1 is, firstly we know the molecular mass of the ethanol. Now we know that the molecular mass of ethanol by calculating it by molecular formula. Now the formula of the ethanol is CH3CH2OH. Now CH3CH2OH, by adding of all the element masses, you will get the molecular mass of ethanol is 46. Now firstly we have to calculate the percentage of carbon. Now carbon mass 12, but in case of ethanol there will be 2 carbon. So mass is 12 into 2, that is equal to 24. So the percentage of carbon is 24 divided by 46 multiplied by 100. That is 52% or 52.144%. Now same here, if we want to calculate the percentage of hydrogen, here the hydrogen mass 1, but in case of ethanol there will be the 6 hydrogen, CH3, CH2OH. 3, 2 and 1. Total hydrogen is 6. So 6 by total molar mass of the ethanol, that is 46. So 6 by 46 multiplied by 100. Now if you want to calculate the percentage of oxygen, that is oxygen is 16. Oxygen mass is 16. There is only one oxygen in the ethanol. So the 16 by 46 multiplied by 100, that is 34%. So in this way we can calculate the percentage of any element in a compound. उसी कंपाउंड में किसी भी एलिमेंट की परसेंटेज निकालनी है, तो जिस भी एलिमेंट की आपको निकालनी है बच्चे, वो परसेंटेज उसका मास डिवाइडेड बाय टोटल mass of a compound multiplied by 100. Now for after calculating the percentage, now we can able to solve the molecular formula and the empirical formula. In my previous lecture I already told you what is empirical formula and the molecular formula. Now the empirical formula of a compound is the chemical formula. एम्पेरिकल फॉर्मूला क्या है बच्चे? एक केमिकल फॉर्मूला ही है, बट दे एक्सप्रेस द सिंपलेस्ट whole number ratio of atom of various element present in one molecule of a compound. भाई आपको एक मॉलिक्यूल कंपाउंड का दे दिया जाए तो उसमें सिंपल होल नंबर रेशो डिफरेंट डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स का कितना है वो आपको कौन बताएगा? एम्पेरिकल फॉर्मूला. फॉर एग्जांपल बेंजीन. For example, in case of benzene, empirical formula is CH. In case of hydrogen peroxide, HO. And in case of glucose, CH2O. Because we know the actual formula of benzene is C6H6. अगर हम benzene का actual formula देखें तो the formula of the benzene is C6H6. So the simple whole number ratio is 1:1. So that is the CH. Now hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. So simple whole number ratio is HO, and in case of glucose C6H12O6. So simple ratio is CH2O. This is the empirical formula of the glucose. Now empirical formula just only represent the only atomic ratio of various elements in its compound. But the molecular formula gives the actual formula of that compound. So it expresses the actual number of atoms of various elements present in one molecule of the compound. Then the molecular formula of benzene is, I have already told you, C6H6, hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, and the glucose C6H12O6. Now how can we calculate the molecular formula by the empirical formula? If you multiply the empirical formula with a number that is called the n multiply empirical formula, and n is 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you will get the molecular formula. The value of n can be obtained from relation. Now we can also calculate the molecular mass or the value of n, that is molecular mass is equal to 2 into vapor density. By molecular mass is equal to 2 into vapor density in case of gas. Now how we can calculate the molecular formula? So various steps has to be used for the calculating the molecular formula. Now by this we can use empirical and molecular formula by using these steps. Now here the step number 1, you have to write the all the element which is present in a compound. See here, there is a one question that a compound contain 4.07% hydrogen, 24.27% carbon, and 71.65% chlorine. Its smaller mass 98.96, and what are its empirical and the molecular formula. आपको क्या दे रखा है बच्चे? एक कंपाउंड में हाइड्रोजन 4.07% है, कार्बन 24.27%, and chlorine is 71.65%, and the molecular mass is 98.96. So how can I calculate the molecular formula and the empirical formula? Firstly we have to calculate the empirical formula. So by calculating this empirical formula we have to know this column. Number 1, element. Now element, here you can write all the element that is present in your compound. Here you have only 3 elements, that is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Now symbol is carbon, hydrogen and Cl. Symbol is carbon, hydrogen and Cl. Now next is the percentage of elements, that is carbon 24.27, hydrogen 4.07, chlorine 74.65%. Now atomic mass, carbon is 12, hydrogen 1, chlorine 35.5. Now after knowing the atomic mass, you can calculate the number of moles, and we can calculate the number of moles dividing the given weight and the atomic mass, that is 24.27 divided by 12. 24.27 is weight and atomic mass is 12. So after dividing the 24.27 divided by 12, you will get the moles of an element, that is 2. Same here for the hydrogen, dividing 4.07 dividing by 1. Then you will get the 4. Now 71.65 divided by 35.5, you will get the 2. Now here you will get the simplest molar ratio 2, 4, 2. Here the number of moles कितने आपके आए हैं बेटा? 2, 4, 2, and simple whole number ratio is 1:2:1. Simple whole number ratio is 1:2:1. So the molar ratio, carbon 1, hydrogen 2, chlorine 1. Carbon 1, hydrogen 2, chlorine 1. Now the empirical formula of the compound is CH2Cl. Empirical formula of the compound is CH2Cl. So after calculating the empirical formula, you have to calculate the empirical mass. You have to calculate the empirical mass of CH2Cl. Carbon 12, hydrogen 2 hydrogen, then the mass is 2, and the chlorine 35.5. So total mass is 49.5. Now n value 2. Now how can I calculate the value of n is equal to 2? So n we can calculate dividing the molecular mass divided by the empirical mass. In the numerical, when you read this numerical, you will get the molecular mass is 98. Then 98 molecular mass divided by 49, you will get 2, and the n value is 2. Now the molecular formula is n into empirical formula, yani 2 into CH2Cl. Empirical formula is CH2Cl. So you will get the formula is C2H4Cl2. Now this is your molecular formula. Now after calculating this, we have to balancing a chemical equation. Now how can I balance a chemical equation? Balancing of a chemical equation means making the number of atom of each element equal on both side of the equation. हम क्यों बैलेंस करते हैं बच्चे इक्वेशन? As you already studied in this class 10, that we balance the equation so that we can balance the number of atom on the both side of equation, that is by on the reactant side as well as on the product side. The method of balancing equation are, that is hit and trial method, and the simplest method to balance a chemical equation is by hit and trial method. So step 1, write down the correct formula of the reactant and products with plus sign in between with an arrow pointing from the reactant or product. This is called the skeletal equation. Now what is skeletal equation? If you get the equation but the number of atom on the both side are not equal, or the equation you have to balance, now that equation is called the skeletal equation. Now step number 2, select the biggest formula from the skeleton equation and equalize the number of atom of each of its constituent elements on both sides of a chemical equation by suitable multiplication. तो स्टेप नंबर 2 में क्या करना है कि बिगेस्ट फॉर्मूला आपके स्केलेटन इक्वेशन में जो बिगेस्ट फॉर्मूला है, सबसे पहले उस बिगेस्ट फॉर्मूला में जो भी एटम्स है उनको इक्वलाइज करो ऑन द बोथ साइड by suitable multiplication method. Now next step number 3, when an elementary gas appear as the reactant or the product, अगर कोई एलिमेंट्री गैस अपीयर हो रही है आपके रिएक्टेंट में है या फिर आपके प्रोडक्ट में है, द इक्वेशन इज बैलेंस्ड मोर इजीली बाय कीपिंग द एलिमेंट्री गैस इन द एटॉमिक स्टेट. आप बैलेंस कर सकते हैं इक्वेशन को और इजी तरीके से अगर वो आप उसको एलिमेंट्री स्टेट में लोगे. एलिमेंट्री स्टेट मीन्स इफ द ऑक्सीजन दैट विल बी द O2, हाइड्रोजन इज H2. The balanced atomic equation is then made molecular by multiplying the whole equation by 2. Now here there is one question. Magnetic oxide when heated with hydrogen is reduced to iron and water is also produced. So write the balanced chemical equation for this reaction. Now the equation is magnetic oxide plus hydrogen give rise iron plus water. So formula of magnetic oxide Fe3O4, hydrogen H2 give rise iron plus water. Now we have to balance this equation. Now firstly we have to balance metal on the both side. Now here if you see in the reactant side iron is 3, but on the product side only one iron atom is present. So you have to multiply the suitable number so that the both side of the reactant as well as product side both side iron atom get equal. So you can multiply the iron with 3 at the product side. So here 3 iron, and at the product side is also 3 iron is present. Now अब क्या करना है आपको कि now in the reactant side oxygen is 4, but at the product side oxygen is 1. So by multiply the reactant product side by 4, you will get the equalized oxygen atom. So here your equation is Fe3O4 plus H2 give rise Fe plus 4H2O. Now the multiply with 4, you will get at the product side hydrogen atom is 8. Now we have to balance the hydrogen atom. So the product side is 8. So you will write 4 at the reactant side. So total over equation is Fe3O4 plus 4H2 give rise 3 iron plus 4H2O. This is your balanced chemical equation. Now next is your partial equation method. Now this partial equation method, the chemical reaction represented by the equation is supposed to proceed in 2 or more steps. Now by this method, partial equation method, suppose कोई chemical equation है या chemical reaction है वो 2 or more steps में हो रही है, तो अब आपने उन स्टेप्स को अलग अलग करके लिखना है. द स्केलेटन इक्वेशन रिप्रेजेंटिंग ईच स्टेप्स आर रिटन एंड देन बैलेंस्ड बाय हिट एंड ट्रायल मेथड. आपको उन सभी स्केलेटन इक्वेशंस को लिखना है. नाउ इन स्टेप नंबर 3, if necessary, the partial equations are multiplied by suitable integers so as to cancel those intermediate products which do not occur in the final reactions. Now, अगर बच्चे जब आपको पार्शियल इक्वेशंस मिल जाती हैं तो आप चाहें तो ऐसे सुटेबल इंटीजर्स से आप उस इक्वेशन को मल्टीप्लाई कर सकते हैं ताकि जो इंटरमीडिएट आया है, सो डैट जो इंटरमीडिएट आपकी प्रोडक्ट साइड पे या रिएक्टेंट साइड पे आया है, आप फाइनल इक्वेशंस में उसको आप कैंसिल आउट कर सकते हैं. नाउ नेक्स्ट स्टेप नंबर 4, आफ्टर गेटिंग दिस पार्शियल इक्वेशन, नाउ यू ऐड द पार्शियल इक्वेशन अप टू गेट द फाइनल बैलेंस्ड इक्वेशन. नाउ जब फाइनल बैलेंस्ड इक्वेशन लेने के लिए यू हैव टू ऐड ऑल द पार्शियल इक्वेशन. नाउ दिस इज योर पार्शियल इक्वेशन मेथड. Now here is some summary of this chapter. I hope you get all the basics concept of this chapter. Now first you have matter. I have already told you, anything that occupies space and has mass. Element, pure substance which can neither be decomposed into or built from the simpler substance. भाई प्योर सब्सटेंस है जिसको आप डिकम्पोज नहीं कर सकते ना आप बना सकते हो. ओनली वन काइंड ऑफ एटम से बना होगा. कंपाउंड्स प्योर सब्सटेंस है. सिंपल 2 और मोर एलिमेंट्स के कॉम्बिनेशन से बनेगा. ठीक है, तो जिसको हम क्या बोलते हैं, कंपाउंड, बट फिक्स रेशो बाय मास. मिक्सचर, substance contains simple mixing of 2 or more pure substance, that is mixture. Next, law of conservation of mass, reactant mass always equal to reactant mass, that is equal to product mass. Next, law of constant composition, compound always contains same elements combined together but in same proportion by mass. Now law of multiple proportion, when two elements combine with each other to form 2 or more than 2 compounds, then the masses of one of the element that combine with the fixed mass of other bear a simple whole number ratio to the another. तो multiple ratio क्या बताता है बच्चे, when 2 or more elements combine together to form 2 or more type of compounds. ये ज़रूरी नहीं है कि एक ही तरह का एलिमेंट बने, आपके 2 या 2 से ज़्यादा तरह के कंपाउंड्स भी बन सकते हैं, बट फिक्स रेशो रहेगा उन सब का. नेक्स्ट, गेल-यूजेक लॉ. गेल-यूजेक लॉ क्या कहता है, when gas react with each other they do so in the volume which bear a simple whole number ratio to one another and to the volume of the product. This is called the Gale-Lussac law. Next, Avogadro law, कि volume of the all the gas reacting directly proportional to the number of molecules. Atom, smallest particle of the elements. Molecule, smaller particle of a substance that has independent existence. Atomicity, number of atom in a molecule. Unified mass 1/12 of the actual mass of an atom of carbon 12. It is equal to 1.66 10 to the power minus 27 kg. Atomic mass, average mass of an atom of the element as compared with mass of carbon 12 taken as 12. Next, molecular mass, average relative mass of a molecule of a substance as compared with mass of an atom of carbon taken as 12 unit. Gram atomic mass, mass of 1 mole of atom in gram is called gram atomic mass. Gram molecular mass, mass of 1 gram of molecule of a compound expressed in gram. You noted Avogadro number 6.022 10 to the power 23. Mole 6.022 10 to the power 23 specified particles. Molar mass, mass of 1 mole particles of the substance. Gram molecular volume, volume occupied by 1 mole molecules of the gaseous substance, and its value is equal to 22.4 liter. Empirical formula, as I have told you, simplest whole number ratio of all the atom of a compound. Molarity, number of moles of solute dissolved in per liter of the solution. Unit is moles per liter. Molarity changes with the changes in the temperature, because it depends upon the volume. The volume changes with the temperature. Now here relationship Kelvin into Celsius. Now you can how to convert the Kelvin into Celsius. Now Kelvin can be converted into Celsius by adding 273 temperature. Now here one more, Fahrenheit can be converted into Celsius, 9/5 degrees Celsius plus 32. So this is the summary of the this chapter, बच्चों. So I hope you understand this chapter thoroughly, you learn it thoroughly, and now I hope that your concept of